Grand Rising Soul Siblings, it's Shay Seeking from American Aborigines Unchained here on YouTube and Facebook. And I just wanted to read something really quick to you guys from this book that I have here. It's called Some Heretics of Yesterday, and it's from 1885. And since it is a copy, a physical copy, I don't even feel like taking pictures and everything like that. So I'm just going to go ahead and read it. And here's the information if you guys want to look for it or whatever you want to do. But I found this kind of interesting. It says something about this guy and how, after he came up, he shared some information. People started to look at him differently. I guess he might have been religious. And then they started to call him, it says, from this time forward, he was known and loved and honored and reverenced for his life of active love and piety, or pity, of patience and meekness, a life in imitation of Christ. Okay. From this time, they called him Dr. Illuminatus, the doctor upon whom a great light hath shined. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and read this part because I think this is the part that I want to talk about. It has something to do with the Black Death. Okay. And it says, a few years later, after this occurred, the third event, which served to disclose the greatness and real Christliness of a man. Okay. Or of the man. In 1348, the Black Death appeared in Strasbourg. It was a plague, says Patrick, that desolated the world. Okay, so that piqued my interest right away. Okay, because I know that history repeats itself, but not really. It's just these people, the same people, are in charge, and so they are basically, if we think about it as the world is a stage, they're just playing things out over and over again. It's all an act. They do what they know, and they do plan and take a lot of thought into the psyche of all different groups of people in order to craft these things. Okay. And they use basically players that, again, one may go a little bit deeper with that, but that are in society today, act out parts from these people. So when I tell you, like, Moses most likely is talking about, yes, in my eyes, a historical, actual person. But also there are people that did acts like a Moses or Christ, or, you see what I'm saying? This is what I mean by there being several. Okay. And then if we think about it on the, if we're dealing with the soul, and if we're dealing with a deeper thought process and looking at these things with occult information, one may even be able to say, what was I saying? Sorry, y'all. Yeah, one may even be able to say that we could be dealing with a Christ consciousness, okay, or the crown or corona, okay, dealing with the kundalini, or that which is naturally in certain people that may have given traces of this energy to indigenous people that come after original people, or their offspring of. And since they're tied into the DNA, this is, again, when people talk about melanin and different types of melanin, and that everyone has it, but there's different types. And again, if you look at the fact of, how, I think I was speaking to my daughter about this, my youngest, about hair and eye color of lighter pigmented people, and saying that they may glorify this as if this is beauty, but it's actually recessive. Okay. Most original and indigenous people have brown or dark colored hair and dark eyes. Okay. So, okay. Again, Y'all know I always go off subject, but sometimes it's just something that I feel like I needed to say. Okay. So the Black Death appeared in Strasbourg. It was a plague, says Patriarch, that desolated the world. For 15 years previous, it had been ravaging the Orient. Okay. So again, we can go ahead and look. I mean, I'm seeing Oriental, it being the root word of Oriental, and things like this. But, I would like to do the etymology on that to look a little bit further. It had been accompanied, or rather preceded, by terrible convulsions. Again, so there's always allegory, duality when, or even speaking in parables when we're talking in the biblical text and in history. Even when we're dealing with law, words that are different in law than they are in common use. Okay. So, yeah, it when we're thinking about convulsions, I'm just thinking about somebody that is having maybe a seizure or something of that nature. Okay. But convulsions, I mean, could this be also something that is an act of somebody acting up or getting out of line, possibly? Okay. Of nature. Okay. So now that we're talking about nature, nature is talking about the original or archetypical everything. Okay. So again, now there are things that are natural to the plane, and there are things that have been brought there and planted. Okay. There's things that have been planted in places, or things that have been spliced and turned into different things when it comes to vegetation. Okay. And then when it comes to fruits, but again, fruits is also referring to, especially in the biblical text, people or beings. Okay. So, convulsions of nature. It's also reminding me of earthquakes, because again, in the biblical text, when we're talking about earthquakes, we're talking about you again in realistic form. See, because they're talking over your head using different terms in order to deceive. So even when they're talking about, like I told you guys, and I did that video on global warming. Okay. And the earth's core is heating up. We are also talking about your kundalini, the archetypical woman and man, or original autochthonous people. Okay. I don't even really like to use the earth. Okay. That's what we're talking about, especially even in the Bible. Okay. So that would be talking about you rising to a level, Fahrenheit. You see what I'm saying? Even in Revelations, the flame that cannot be put out, that's going to be kindled. Okay. This is all talking about you in the dark matter, or or energy, okay, that we possess. And again, they're afraid of that energy that we possess when we rise through the kundalini into the mind, okay, bypassing the heart. Okay. All right. And this has happened over and over again. There's been revolution. There were many of them, revolts, that they don't speak of in the story or his story, because they don't want you to get any ideas. Okay. But they don't know that this is natural, because you're connected directly to the source. And there's things about you that they'll never be able to figure out. And I think this is why they want to constantly test on us right now, because again, this has nothing to do with a virus in my eyes. We are dealing with regular flu season. And again, years prior to this, America, I believe alone, has lost 90,000 people to the flu. Okay. Or this, when I'm saying that, I'm talking about the whole, Canada, South America, whatnot. Okay. To the flu 2 years ago. Okay. To the regular seasonal flu. Okay. So again, not to mention that they're not testing for that anymore now. They're just testing for COVID. So what happened to the flu? And why are we not comparing numbers of COVID and cases of COVID to flu? See? Okay. So again, they want to keep testing you. They don't do this for the flu that kills that many people. Okay. And again, we accept a certain amount of death in this world. Okay. So again, this should not be anything that should halt the economic system. Again, it's not mine. So, okay. Or government, or any of this other stuff. I think they've been hiding because they are in fear of what's going on within us. Okay. And what's going on because of the connection in us rising and waking and being connected, more of us every single day, to source. Okay. So let's get back to the book. So yeah, a great variety of calamities. Okay. So this is the terrible convulsions of nature, and by a great variety of calamities, which in those days and even down to our time were regarded rather as the capricious visitation, you hear me, of a wrathful God. See, it reminds me of that movie. I never watched it, but that title always sticks out in my head, that God is not dead. Okay. This is God with a capital G here. Okay. So again, who are the creators or co-creators? See, they want you to think they created everything, but a lot of these things that we have, including certain subgroups of people, would not have been here if it weren't for coming through the womb of a original woman anywhere on this plane. Okay. All right. So this is why they want to blot you out and anything that had to do with you. All right. So this is coming for a wrathful God. Okay. And again, Hades could be considered a god. He's a god of the underworld. So, I mean, I'm just saying. And again, we reside in the underworld in their system. Okay. But some of us are rising and cracking that checkerboard white and black floor that they have sealed on top of us. Okay. All right. So when we're talking about dark energy or vapor or these things, sulfur, salt, the salt of the earth, we're talking about these things, you can go ahead and relay them to us. And the reason why they're talking about global warming as if this is something that's affecting the trees, when that might be something that they're spraying in the air, actually, that are doing these other things that are showing us the signs and wonders. But also, it's going on within us. So they're hiding in the rocks right now. Let's just make reference to that. Okay. So, so it's more of a visitation of a wrathful God than as the inevitable and legitimate result of natural causes. Okay. Natural causes. See, there have been droughts. Famine. Again, a drought can also be the drying up of the earth, meaning that they were pulling away from the system and keeping everybody out and doing what they originally did in order to get rid of these beasts, okay, that were, or these alien groups or full reign groups that were imposing on them. Okay. So they were trying to go back to basis, back to dealing with each other, kind of like so-called Black Wall Street and all these other things that they made sure they got rid of. Okay. So, and floods. Again, flooding could also be talking about during these times of all this travail that these people were being cast out and cast away out of their standing. And then now it has been given, okay, possibly to other groups that were coming and flooding the nation. Okay, maritime people and families that were coming into our shores or onto our shores. Okay, swarms, okay, of locusts. Okay, that consumes. Okay, and earthquakes. Again, the earthquakes in the biblical text are talking about you shaking things up, you tired and shaking things up. Okay, anarchy. Okay, which had changed in an hour. See, now remember in Revelations, I think it says it was as if it was in an hour that everything was brought to a silence. No harps will be played there anymore. Nobody will buy your merchandise anymore. All these things of that nature. Okay. The contour of the vast areas of the earth's surface the vast areas, the contour. And again, if I'm thinking about contour, I'm thinking somebody is creating or contouring or, forming something in a sense. Okay. And then again, I'm thinking like an arch or something of that nature, a doorway or something too, is what I'm seeing. Okay. Of vast areas of the earth's surface. So again, this is someone that will surface or go in the front of the face of, okay, that would take the heads off of your kings and your warriors and replace the head with a $5 Indian or something of this nature. Okay. Even in ancient Egypt, when you see on those walls and you think we're looking at some type of creatures and beasts with a human or a archetypical body, shape and form, this because the head was cut off and replaced with the head of a beast or a fowl. And these are the beast and the fowl that we're talking about in Genesis. And then if you look at the bottom of Ramses the Sixth, I think, tomb, which I'm going to show you guys, hopefully I'm hoping to get a couple of videos out this week. Random, but again, there's information there. So when we're looking at these particular people that are having their heads cut off, that are at the bottom, that have enmity between them and the seed that is walking on top of them, that have been brought down to their knees, because again, you'll see them also being beat down. You'll see fighting going on in hieroglyphs. You'll see people been